and they're gone. The MAGA Republicans are shutting down Congress yet again. They're leaving Washington, D.C. by and large, and they are partially shutting down the government. And if this seems like deja vu, it's because this is what the MAGA Republicans do, and they especially do this when there is greater attention on the Trump regime covering up child sex trafficking within the Epstein files. And boy, oh boy, are Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans running scared. So look, the Democrats, I think, made some pretty basic demands regarding ICE and Border Patrol funding. Democrats said, look, take the masks off your ICE and Border Patrol, Gestapo, put some body cameras on them. And here's a wild concept. Let's use judicial warrants pursuant to the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution instead of these bogus administrative warrants that ICE and Border Patrol are using to break into people's homes. Could we do that? If we can do that, MAGA Republicans, then we can continue to fund the Department of Homeland Security. By the way, I would be still pretty pissed off about that. I want ICE and Border Patrol entirely abolished, but okay, that's what the Democrats said. And the MAGA Republicans were like, no, they gotta wear their masks and no body cams and no judicial warrants, because if all of that happened, you're gonna dox them and you're gonna dox. We need to keep them masked. So the MAGA Republicans were like, you know what? This is awfully convenient as well for us to shut down or partially shut down the government and then shut down Congress, because, you know, the walls are closing in on the Trump regime regarding the Epstein files. And whether it's Howard Lutnick, Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, all these MAGAs, they are running scared. So MAGA Mike Johnson, the MAGA Republican Speaker of the House, Senator Thune, the Majority Leader in the Senate, they're like, bye-bye, we are leaving. Here is how it's being reported by Sarah Ferris. House is going to leave today. Maybe they'll be on 48 hours notice to come back. Maybe, per GOP sources. Shutdown starts Friday night at midnight. Manu Raju explains. The DHS shutdown, all but certain. What's likely going to happen? Senate Democrats expected to block the House bill to fund DHS through September. Then there'll be competing resolutions. Then the senators will leave town, and they're saying bye-bye. Some senators are going to the Munich conference. Some senators are going back to their home district, but they are out. And they're shocked, I tell you. They said, why won't they agree with Donald Trump and us? We want our ICE Gestapo to wear masks. Well, let me show you what went down as well before these MAGA Republicans decided they're going to shut down Congress again and partially shut down the government. It's only a partial shutdown because the shutdown would just relate to the Department of Homeland Security. But this is what went down before. You can see why the MAGA Republicans wanted to get the hell out of here. Every one of these hearings, they beclown themselves even more. So you have this guy, Jeremy Carl, who Donald Trump wants to appoint as the Assistant Secretary of State for international organizations. So this is Trump's appointee. This is who Trump picked. He wants the Senate to confirm this guy. I'm just showing you the data points of what went down before the Senate and the House were like, all right, enough. We're out of here. So this is the guy Trump wants to be the Assistant Secretary of State. Sounds like a big position, right? Because it is. And his name is Jeremy Carl, and he's a white nationalist. Like, that's his thing. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic. He goes around and he basically says, like, this is what I do. I'm like, he's a white nationalist. That's his thing. So Senator Murphy, Democratic senator, cross-examines this guy, Carl. And he's like, so your belief is that white Americans face more discrimination than anybody else? That's how you feel? Here, play this clip right here.
A year ago, were white Americans the most discriminated against group in the United States? You said it. So
yeah. Senator, no, certainly this is my belief. I'm not running away from that. I think that while, of course, all races in different contexts can be subject to really severe discrimination, that when we look at our legal structures, white Americans are often very disfavored in overt ways. We're seeing this in the Small Business Administration, many other places.
So your belief is that white Americans face more discrimination, at least prior to the Trump administration fixing this, than black Americans?
On average, Senator, yes, that's correct. And I'm not running away from that statement at all.
Okay. And here's some more questioning of this guy. Let's play it.
Mr. Carl, I think it's just heartbreaking that you have been nominated for this position and that you've reached a panel before the United States Senate. But I do want to give you a chance to go a little bit deeper in your explanations of your personal beliefs. They are directly relevant to your fitness to serve. You already have had some of your statements read to you, but I'd like you to respond to at least a few of them. One of the things you have said is that anti-white discrimination is the most pervasive and politically salient form of racism today. So do you continue to believe that anti-white discrimination is more salient than the discrimination faced today by Blacks, Latinos, Muslims, or other American groups?
Thank you for that question. And thank you also for giving me an opportunity to speak at a little bit of length. I haven't necessarily had much opportunity to respond.
I'm going to have at least one more question for you, so I'll give you a minute or two to respond.
Yes. So thanks to the great work of my friend Harmeet Dhillon as the Assistant Attorney General of Civil Rights, I actually think that we've done an incredible job in this administration of getting rid of certain policies that discriminate particularly against white Americans.
I got this is real. This is Trump's pick to be the Assistant Secretary of State for international organizations. It's a big position. Senate confirmed. And here's Chris Murphy. He writes, Senator Murphy goes, Trump nominated a legit white nationalist to a top post at the State Department. I asked him some basic questions about his belief in the erasure of white culture. Watch his embarrassing fumbling answer like he was never before asked to explain his views. Here, play this clip.
Tell me how you define white identity and what you think is being erased about white identity.
Certain types of Anglo-derived culture that comes from our history.
Like what?
Let me think about this. Senator, I would say if you were to look at the book by one of your former Senate colleagues, Born Fighting, about the sort of Scotch-Irish military culture and certain, pride that went with that, that would be one example. Obviously, you could have sub-elements of that culture. You could have Italians, you could have Irish, and those are in many ways more.
Yeah, but you're worried about white culture. You're not worried about, you're now retreating to ethnic identity. You don't speak about ethnic identity. You speak about white identity. So tell me the values that stitch together white identity and that make it different than Black identity.
I would say that the white church is very different than the Black church in terms of its tone and style on average. Foodways could often be different.
And those
music could be different.
And those are being erased.
Music could be different. Well, if you look at the Super Bowl halftime show, which was not in English this year.
So our ability to access white churches or white food or white music is being erased?
I am concerned with the majority common American culture that we had for some time that through particularly mass immigration, I think has become much more balkanized, and I think that weakens us. And again, I'm not running away from that comment. I'm not apologizing for it.
Well, I'm way over my time. I think you're struggling to answer this question, right? Because underlying your beliefs is a sentiment that white culture is just simply better.
Right. So while that was going on in that committee, in another committee, the Senate invited they invited the Attorney General Ellison from Minnesota. They invited some ICE agents and some Border Patrol people. And you would think, okay, in terms of Minnesota, this is a very tragic, difficult time. People have gotten killed, very traumatic. But you have Ron Johnson, MAGA Republican senator from Wisconsin. He's cross-examining Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, and he attacks Ellison and blames Ellison for the murder of Alex Pretty and Renee Nicole Good. He blames the Democratic Attorney General because the Democratic Attorney General